Number 8. Smiler Incident. Found at Alton Towers in the UK, the Smiler roller coaster owns the world record for most inversions, with riders being turned upside down 14 times. A major attraction at the park, the Smiler promised an exhilarating experience, but its reputation was marred by an incident that occurred on June the 2nd of 2015. On that day, 5 people were severely injured after a train carrying 16 passengers collided with a stationary empty train. The latter had been dispatched for a test run and stalled because of a gust of wind. The ride's automated block system consequently shut it down, but the park's engineers overrode it because they were unaware that the empty train was present on the tracks. The train carrying the passengers thus crashed into it. 2 riders seated at the front, 19-year-old Vicky Balk and Leah Washington, aged 17, suffered horrific injuries. Balk's right leg and Washington's left leg required partial amputation. The latter's boyfriend was hospitalized with 2 broken kneecaps and extensive hand injuries. He would later remember, "I could just see blood, bone and flesh splattered on the carriage in front." Daniel Thorpe, aged 27, was left with a collapsed lung and a fractured leg. Chanda Chauhan, seated on the Smiler's second row, needed surgery after having suffered blood clots and a damaged liver. The victims sued the park in the accident's aftermath, and its owners admitted blame. Balk and Washington, who'd struggled adapting to life as amputees, reportedly received a multi-million-dollar payout, while other victims were also compensated with 6-figure sums. Number 7. Anthony Tyson. In March of 2014, a Wisconsin man was left in critical condition following a roller coaster incident at the Mount Olympus theme park. 63-year-old Anthony Tyson was riding in the same cart as his wife Kay on the indoor OPA Twister Steel roller coaster. Looking back on the incident, Kay remembered that her husband's lap bar became unlocked as they went around the corner. He was launched into the air like a rag doll and impacted the concrete floor, sustaining devastating injuries. Tyson suffered 4 fractured vertebrae, broken toes and fingers, a dislocated shoulder, a shattered scapula, and life-threatening brain damage. He was bleeding from the head but breathing on his own when the emergency services arrived at the scene. Tyson spent several days in a coma, and while he did wake up from it, the long-term effects of his brain injury remain to be determined. A police officer inspected the ride and checked the 4 lap bars on Tyson's cart several times. 3 remained locked, but the 4th, where the victim had been sitting, came loose every time. OPA was permanently closed after the incident. Number 6. Rosa Esparza. In July of 2013, Rosa Esparza, aged 52, fell to her death from the new Texas Giant roller coaster at Six Flags Over Texas in Arlington. Once the tallest wooden roller coaster in the world, the ride was modified between 2009 and 2011, a refurbishment in which steel tracks were introduced. However, even though the renovated roller coaster had increased in height and came to include a steeper drop angle, the safety features in the carts reportedly didn't undergo an upgrade. That would change following Esparza's tragic death. According to eyewitnesses, the woman had expressed concerns regarding her lap bar, which hadn't come all the way down, yet it did go close far enough for a computer to register it as locked. As the roller coaster reached a peak, Esparza was ejected from her seat and fell to her death an estimated 75 feet. Her partially severed body was found wrapped around a support beam on the aluminium roof of the Honky Tonk Tunnel. The woman's daughter, who subsequently sued the park, was riding in the cart ahead with her husband and witnessed Esparza being thrown from the roller coaster. As per the lawsuit, she then had to spend an interminable time on the ride, unaware of her mother's fate. The suit was eventually settled for an undisclosed sum without an admission of fault on the park's behalf. New Texas Giant was closed following the incident and reopened in September of that same year with redesigned restraint bars, pads, and seat belts installed on all its trains. Number 5. Dawn Yankovic. On June the 4th of 2021, Ohio woman Dawn Yankovic was found unresponsive next to her 17-year-old son after riding the Voyage roller coaster at Indiana's Holiday World and Splashin' Safari theme park. 47-year-old Yankovic was later pronounced dead at a local hospital, but her passing was considered a mystery as the ride didn't appear to have any malfunctions or safety violations. According to her teenage son, Gunnar, who wasn't hurt in the incident, the woman hadn't been feeling sick and was fine the whole entire day. Then, the coroner's report was released, which identified the tearing of an artery, severe internal blood loss, and force from the roller coaster as the main factors in her death. The G-force of the ride had caused the rupture of her internal thoracic artery. The blood vessel is paired, meaning there's one on each side of the body, and it runs from the clavicle to the rib cage, supplying the chest wall with blood from the heart. Some roller coasters subject riders to over 5 Gs, which is similar to the forces experienced by drag racers. Repetitive sequences of acceleration and deceleration cause a jerking of the neck, which can lead to a torn artery. If small, it will generally heal on its own, but in more serious cases, such as Yankovic's, it can result in a fatal loss of blood. Number 4. Formula One accident. In July of 2020, a 32-year-old woman suffered a fatal fall from a roller coaster in Oise, southern France. The woman was reportedly celebrating her 2-year-old child's birthday at Parc Saint-Paul, approximately 50 miles north of Paris. It was her first visit to the theme park, and she went on the Formula One coaster alongside her husband. According to eyewitnesses, as the roller coaster made a turn, she was thrown from her seat and over the safety barrier. Her husband desperately tried to catch her by the feet, but it was to no avail. The woman's bloodied body was later found at the bottom of the roller coaster. The emergency services immediately arrived at the scene, but they were unable to revive her. It's unclear if the ride's operators would be held accountable for her death, but the Formula One coaster does have a dark past. In 2009, a 35-year-old woman died of cardiac arrest after being thrown from it. However, Le Parisien reported that an investigation concluded she'd exhibited inappropriate behavior on the ride and didn't find the park liable for her death. Number 3. Sandblaster incident. In June of 2018, 9 people were hospitalized following the derailment of a train from the Sandblaster roller coaster in Daytona Beach, Florida. Mother of 2, Amanda Bostic, aged 34, was among those who were injured. She and the co-worker were on a business trip from Kentucky when they decided to go on the ride. Bostic remembered that from the outset, the roller coaster didn't feel stable and kept shaking. It then started gaining speed. Bostic and her colleague were seated at the front when, after making a turn, the roller coaster derailed. The front car was left dangling with its nose pointing down, barely attached to anything except for the car behind it. Amidst the metallic screeching and terrified screams, Bostic fell 35 feet, bouncing off support beams like a pinball. She survived but suffered a concussion, chipped teeth, a foot injury, and a massive bruise on her arm. Rescuers moved swiftly, but some riders were trapped for over half an hour, afraid to move for fear of causing the roller coaster to drop further down. In the aftermath, an investigation revealed a number of problems with the ride, including safety cables improperly secured, cracked supports, as well as a number of damaged deck braces. Today's topic was requested by Cindy Sumner, Bukefre, and Sarah Brown. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. La Feria tragedy. In September of 2019, 2 people were killed and 5 others were injured at La Feria amusement park in Mexico City after a roller coaster flew off its tracks and plunged into the ground. A mechanical failure on a ride called the Quimera caused the car to come loose and fall from an estimated height of 35 feet. Videos that subsequently circulated on social media would show it nearly flipping upside down and then crashing into a metal loop. A park vendor reported seeing one rider as he was sent flying from the cart and several others hitting their heads as the roller coaster derailed at speed. With the final cart dangling behind it, the authorities didn't release the identities of the victims, but they were reported as 2 males aged 18 and 25. The police launched an investigation while treating the incident as a case of negligent homicide. Number 1. James Hackemer. In July of 2011, U.S. Army Sergeant James Hackemer died in a roller coaster accident at the Darien Lake theme park in upstate New York. 29-year-old Hackemer was a local hero and an Iraq War veteran. In 2008, during his second tour in the country, His vehicle was hit by an improvised explosive device. He was left with horrific injuries that resulted in the loss of both his legs, 2 strokes, brain damage, and 6 weeks spent in a coma. In the following years, he relearned how to eat, speak, and write, with the support of his family. Upon arriving at Darien Lake, according to his sister Jody, Hakama was determined to ride every roller coaster. In the afternoon, he went on the Superman ride of steel. Jody would later tell a media outlet that for the minute or so that he'd spent on the roller coaster, he probably felt the happiest and most normal he's felt in 3.5 years. Hakama, a father of 2 young daughters, was accompanied on the ride by a college-age nephew. Tragically, as the roller coaster reached the 50-mile-per-hour mark, Hakama fell off it, sustaining fatal injuries. In the aftermath, a rumor circulated that the veteran had been told by a park employee that he could go on all the rides. In reality, as recounted by his nephew, no one had challenged whether him going on the roller coaster would pose an issue, and Hakama himself never asked. He wasn't height-checked, and the Ride of Steel's operator failed to notice he was a double amputee. As a result, he was thrown from the ride. A wrongful death lawsuit would later be settled for a 7-figure sum that would go towards his daughters. Thanks for watching. After a full meal, would you rather go on the world's fastest roller coaster or belly flop into a swimming pool from 30 feet? Let us know in the comments section below.